What's going on at Ford headquarters? Yes, last video we talked about some of the phenomenons going in with Ford, and they can't sell some of their ICE trucks because they're overpriced, and some of their Lightnings aren't selling that well, but then they start to incentivize. If you watched one of my previous videos here last week, or this week actually, then you'll probably know that I mentioned that there was many incentives and they were starting to sell a lot more Ford Lightnings. That's their pickup trucks that are pure electric. Now, what they were doing was offering incentives up to $15,000 per transaction just to get people in the door. But the latest word is on the street that Ford's struggles are real. And obviously, there's going to be a significant impact to the Lightning. As a matter of fact, there's some big news looming. In 2025, Ford is promising a whole new platform for a truck that's EV powered. That's right. The Lightning might be secondary to this whole conversation, and I believe the Ford Lightning was really more of sort of a knee-jerk reaction to sort of meet a target within the market, and they're literally going to start developing a new model altogether. But with that said, this $15,000 incentive that I spoke of on the last video might be coming and going. As a matter of fact, Ford's now been promising and actually communicating to some of its suppliers for the parts to actually prepare for scaling down. So yes, they're not selling more Lightnings, and they're not even expecting to sell more Lightnings. They're actually communicating that instead of selling 3,200 units at the Roush factory, they're actually talking about maybe scaling this down to 1,600 trucks sold in the Roush factory, out of the Roush factory. So they're actually preparing to sell less vehicles. But with that said, the preparation comes in light of possibly selling them for full price as opposed to selling more volume at a more discounted and incentivized rate. So, I mean, when's the last time we heard of that? You know, a lot of these manufacturers, we said, were trying to do some shady business. They realized that during this last 2 years and what we experienced as the last 2 years, last 3 years in the car market, as it's flipped, was they realized almost every car manufacturer didn't even really need to sell the volumes that they once did. And they really figured that out because they were limited by supply chain chokes. They couldn't get chips. They couldn't get a lot of parts that were coming, wiring harnesses from East Europe. They couldn't get chips from a lot of the suppliers. And so they had to try to bump prices up. They had to hold prices higher for customers to actually get these cars because there were fewer of them available. Customers were having to pay the price. Sadly enough, customers were the end user and they were getting gouged. Now, what we're finding here, Ford with this new Lightning EV, there's actually this different business model where they're actually saying, you know what, we don't need to scale up. We know the market can only tolerate so many of these. We also know that it's a premium vehicle and it's not selling like hotcakes. So here's what we're going to do. We're likely going to sell less vehicles, but we're going to hold our margins higher so we don't have to sell as many. And that's the business model that a lot of these manufacturers and OEMs were really working towards during this last couple of years because they didn't have the volumes. They didn't have the supply, and they had to make more money on the percentage of profit rather than in terms of volume sales. So clearly, they're adopting this method of sales, or it appears to be, in my opinion, that they're going down that path. Now, some of this might just be a strict indication that the market has taken what the market is willing to bear. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. The market will bear what it can, and I think people's backs are broken. That's kind of where we're at. And unfortunately, for Ford, you know, they come in at the wrong time. They're trying to bring in these high-priced EVs, and we know the development costs are not insignificant. So whether they're making money or not making money on the sale of each EV remains to be seen. But the bottom line is, I mean, I would never believe that they're not making money. They're clearly making money hand over fist. But they use the argument that this whole new technology enhancement as well as research and development means that their margins are smaller. But with that said, Ford finally hit that point where they pretty much hit the peak of what the market can tolerate and what customers can tolerate. Have you seen prices of some of these trucks lately at $100,000 or $120,000? I mean, who's got that kind of money? I don't have that kind of money. I don't know about most of you guys if you have that kind of money as well. But Ford's trying to push that as far as they can possibly go with the sale of their EVs, and that is the Lightning. Now, Ford hasn't been entirely transparent either, and honestly, when the Lightning came out initially, they promised it would be starting around $40,000, but it's not unlike the Corvette, and we all know the Corvette C8 was one of those phenomenons where they said, hey, the base price is $79,900. Good luck in trying to find one. You couldn't even find a car, and if you did, you were going to overpay for it. And that's sort of where we're at now with the Lightning. Ford's decided and elected to now average out trying to get cars or these trucks sold for at least $52,000. Now, they've actually brought those prices down to $52,000. They were actually higher when they initially launched because they thought there was a certain popularity that people just wanted these like hotcakes, and they were willing to sell these at a higher, bigger profit margin. So the initial $40K soon became $52,000, and clearly Ford quickly realized that I think they were out of their element and actually priced these cars or these trucks way out of their league. Now, we know Ford, they're in some dire straits, honestly. Between you and I truly believe they're in a world of hurt right now, and they're in damage control mode. That's right, if you thought you wanted to buy a Ford Lightning, wait it out, because I believe more incentives are coming. Now, they're trying to be candid, or they're essentially trying to be a little coy and saying, you know what, no, these trucks are worth here and all of that, but the incentives are coming. With interest rates and cost of living, people are not buying. And the troubles are near. How do we know the troubles are near? Well, for one, of course, we know that some of the prices and the targets, they're not meeting the targets for sales on the Mustang Mach-E or the Ford Lightning pickup truck. They're not making the targets, so they're having to scale back and reduce that. They're also not able to actually continue on with that plan. You know, they were going to develop that battery manufacturing facility, the Michigan LFP manufacturing plant, essentially where they were going to develop and enhance some new battery technology, but also they delayed 2 of the Kentucky battery plants as well, which is clear indications that sales are not where they expect to be, and Ford is in a world of hurt. Now, on top of this, everybody assumed that EVs were going to be the hottest thing, but clearly even Jim Farley, CEO of Ford Motor Cars, has actually even openly admitted that we're probably not going to see parity between ICE and electric vehicles until at least 2030. In other words, that's a nodal point. That's the point where battery development and technology and all of it, research and R&D, is able to make the vehicles more affordable on the electric side, and they meet up and cross that point where it costs to actually manufacture an internal combustion engine vehicle. So clearly we're not there yet. The cost of manufacturing electric vehicles are much higher. People aren't buying them like Ford or a lot of the other manufacturers were hoping for. Now, Tesla clearly leading with the Cybertruck. They have strong competition now, Ford that is. And honestly, they're in a place where they're really struggling. They're actually resisting the sales, scaling back their output. They're slowing down the manufacturing or the building of these battery manufacturing plants. And clearly all indications are that Ford is in a world of hurt, and I truly believe their electrification marketplace is in for some rough times. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed that. Please as well be sure, don't forget to hit down there that subscribe button. Love for you to join in. Come check on the latest news and buying opportunities. We can get you a better deal than you're likely going to get for yourself. So hope to see each and every one of you on the next one. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.